on what it looks like homemade today. We are making the ultimate comfort food. That's right, macaroni and cheese. Not just any macaroni and cheese, we're making the ultimate, superb, best macaroni and cheese you will ever have. And you know, this time of year, that's what a lot of people like to make, but we're not gonna make store-bought macaroni and cheese. We're not gonna get it from the box, just off the shelf and just dump it in a pot. No, we're gonna make it fresh. So we're gonna use off-the-block cheese. We're gonna use 4 different types of cheeses. Really 5. The 5th one is my secret ingredient, which we're going to get to here in a second. But we're gonna use Gruyer, Sharp Cheddar, Colby Jack, Parmesan cheese, and then my 5th one, which we're gonna get to once we start making the dish. This is my secret ingredient. All together is going to be fantastic. And even if you are lactose intolerant, you will still want to eat this macaroni and cheese. You'll deal with the consequences later, but that's how good this macaroni and cheese will be. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's grate our Gruyer cheese. We need 7 ounces of Gruyer cheese. So we're just going to get our grater. We're going to use the bigger one here. And this is already weighted at 7 ounces. So we're just going to get all of that grated. When you get to the end, you have to kind of put it into a ball. Definitely don't want to make sure you don't cut yourself. So just about got it. Okay, next we're going to do our sharp cheddar cheese. There's no need to clean the grater here. It's all going in the same dish. So we're just going to get this one started here. And the reason I like to use off the block cheese is because in the package, they put these coatings on it so that it doesn't stick, but that coating doesn't melt as easily or as well. I mean, it will melt, but not as well as just fresh off the block. So you get a much better taste, a much better consistency when you do it off the block. And this is 12 ounces of sharp cheddar cheese here that I've already weighed. So we're gonna need all of that. And we're gonna make a bechamel sauce. And we're gonna use the Gruyere, the sharp cheddar, and the Parmesan cheese. Now this Colby Jack cheese, we're gonna use it in a different way. We're gonna use that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and get our sharp cheddar cheese done. All right, now we're just about done with our sharp cheddar cheese here. And we're gonna go ahead and shred our Colby Jack cheese. Even though we're not gonna use it just yet, we'll go ahead and get it done. And we'll do the Parmesan cheese as well. All right, when you get to the end, be careful. So what I like to do, I just go ahead and eat the last little bit that's left. Cheese is good. Okay, next we're going to make our bechamel sauce, which we're gonna start with a whole stick of butter first. Put it right in here over medium heat. We want it to melt. And then once it melts, we're going to add in half a cup of flour. We'll start with the butter first. Add it in there. There we go. Just move it around in your skillet here so it can coat all the sides of the skillet. Okay, now that our butter is melted, we're going to start adding in our half a cup of flour. Turn your heat down some. And we want to add this in and whisk it in here until it starts to get a sort of a blondish color. We don't want it to be brown and dark, but we want to get it nice. You start to tell it starts to bubble off the pan here a little bit as we start to cook it. A little bit more in there. Just do it a little bit at a time. Don't dump the whole thing of flour in all at once. Stir it because you don't want it to stick to your skillet. And it takes about a minute or two to get to that color that we want. Okay, now that our butter and flour here is the blonde color, we're going to start to add our 5 cups of milk. You want to pour it in here slowly. Make sure you stir the entire time. Actually, it smells really good. And you want to keep stirring because we don't want the clumps that you may see in there. So we want to get all the clumps out. The one thing you can do too is to add your milk, maybe have it at room temperature when you start to cook it. That helps it to not take longer for it to cook. Here we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. The flour wants to clump up, so you want to make sure that you stir it constantly with the whisk. Okay, now that you see our bechamel here starting to boil, so we want to let it boil for about a minute, but constantly stir it. It's going to get thicker as we do this, and then we're going to add our cheese into it. Now for this next step, you want to do your cheese and your bechamel off the burner. Do not do this step while everything is still on the burner. So we're going to go ahead and add in our cheese to our bechamel sauce. And put it in there, stir it up as we go. And this is all our Gruyer cheese first. It's gonna get a lot thicker. I know it's kind of thin at the moment, but it will get a lot thicker. It's melting very nicely. Put that in. And before we put our sharp cheddar cheese in there, let's go ahead and put our dry mustard in here. It's 1 teaspoon of dry mustard. Let's go ahead and get that added. Add in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Mixed in there, and then we'll continue with our cheeses. All right, next we're gonna add our sharp cheddar cheese. It looks so good. Get it mixed in nice, and see it melts so easily because it's off the block cheese. It's not the cheese in the bag, the pre-shredded cheese. Most of our cheese in there. And finally, we're adding our 2 ounces of Parmesan cheese. And this is how you get the creamiest macaroni and cheese you've ever had. All right, that is ready to go. Look at that. Now get ready to cook our pasta. We're gonna add some salt into our boiling water. Be kind of generous with the salt. Don't worry about it. You won't be able to taste it in the macaroni and cheese. Okay, now that our water is boiling, we're going to add our pasta. And the key to really good macaroni and cheese is to make sure you do not overcook your pasta in this step right here. So this particular box says that it is al dente at 8 minutes. So I like to cook mine a little bit less than al dente. So we're gonna do 7 minutes. Throw it in here. Do the whole box. This is 1 pound of elbow noodles or 1 pound of macaroni noodles. Alexa, set a timer for 7 minutes. And so now here's the secret ingredient, Velveeta cheese. Oh man, it is going to be the best. Now make sure you use Velveeta specifically. Don't use anything else. This is the secret ingredient to my mac and cheese. And we're gonna cut it into cubes and we're gonna place it inside of the macaroni and cheese. Open it up here, just gonna cut sections of it like this. Short little chunks. Go cheese. About this size. That should be good. And let me tell you, when this melts in there, oh, it makes it so creamy, so cheesy, and so delicious. And we're gonna use about half of this Velveeta cheese. Half is about 8 ounces. It was a 16-ounce container, so we'll use half of it, 8 ounces, and then we'll be done with the Velveeta cheese. So now we have our baking dish, and we're gonna coat it with some butter. Put a nice, good layer of butter on the sides of it too. This way it kind of helps your macaroni and cheese not to stick to your pan, and it also adds a little crispiness to it as well on the edges here. Every square inch of it should be covered with butter. And now that our noodles are done, we're gonna pour it into our baking dish here. Separate the noodles. Okay, now that our pasta is in here, we're gonna take some of our cheese and we're gonna spread it over the pasta here. Okay, now we're gonna add some more sharp cheddar. We sprinkle it all around. This is not going to be our top layer. This is going to get mixed in here in just a second once we add our bechamel sauce into it. But I still want to spread it around so that it's not in big clumps. Then we're going to add in our chunks of Velveeta cheese. And if you happen to bite into that when you eat this mac and cheese, oh, it's going to be so good. Okay, now we're going to add our bechamel sauce over it. So I'm going to bake into the oven. Then we're going to stir this up too. I'm going to fold it over into our sauce here. It's going to be nice and cheesy, nice and delicious, which is exactly what we want. All the macaroni noodles need to be coated with our sauce. I'm telling you, it's going to be the best macaroni and cheese you ever had. The best you ever had. Then you want to kind of even it out because we're going to add a layer of our Colby Jack cheese on top. It's going to give it that nice golden brown crust that we want. It's going to be delicious. Okay, now we're going to take our Colby Jack cheese. We're going to spread it over the top. Try to get a nice layer if you can. It'll help get us our nice golden crust on the top that we want. And some people may use breadcrumbs on their mac and cheese on top. but I'm used to having a layer of like crunchy cheese on there, so that's what we're gonna do. All right, that should do it. Then we're gonna bake it in the oven at 375 degrees. We're gonna bake it for about 25 minutes. But always check it, like I always say, always check it. Ovens cook differently. I don't know how quickly your oven may cook or how slowly it may cook, but check it just maybe at the 15-minute mark. So we're gonna put it in the oven for 375 for 25 minutes. And now the moment of truth, the taste test. Here we go. Oh, it looks so good. Oh, this macaroni and cheese is delicious. Oh, it's good. You are absolutely going to love it. Thank you so much for watching What It Looks Like Homemade.